What's up, YouTube? I come to you today from my garage, not to do an install, but to do a video that I know a few of you have been asking me to do for a while. This is going to be pretty much a walk around of all of my bikes. I know that you guys have seen me riding so many different bikes in all my videos. Yes, I really do have this many bikes. It is an absolute addiction. Maybe I have a problem, who knows. Anyway, so let's start this video off. We're going to go from big to small. So this is the biggest bike I have. It is a 2014 Ducati Streetfighter 848. It's fully dyno tuned, fully mapped. I've got an exhaust on it, the BMC race filter, and it put down 123 wheel horsepower on a really conservative dyno. All in all, it's pretty much stock except for the exhaust, the air filter, and a few Ducati performance parts. I've got the comfort seat, the Ducati seat cowl, and the Ducati performance mirrors. And I also have the Speedy Moto frame sliders. This is a really great bike, and this is why I ride it every single day. It is an absolute beast. It's fast as hell, and I love it. Let's move on to the next largest bike in my garage. This is a 2008 CRF 450X. Now, I know what you might be saying. Didn't I just post a video about how I exploded this thing and I had to rebuild it? Yes, I did, and it is finished. And actually, I went for a big ride yesterday. It was super fun, and that video will be next week. But let me tell you about this thing. Pretty much, it is a bone stock CRF 450X. I've got the stock exhaust and pretty much OEM internals on the engine rebuild I just did. I did put the CRF 450R cam in it, and it's supposed to increase power a little bit. I did some airbox modifications, and I did some changes to the jet. However, what makes this bike fun is it's on a supermoto setup, and it is incredibly easy to wheelie. I really have a blast on this bike. I really enjoyed it until I blew it up. Hopefully I don't blow it up again. But all in all, this bike is super fun. I really don't know where I would place it as far as in terms of my favorite bikes in my garage. It's really hard to say because I've got so many bikes that I really like. So let's move on to the next one. Next up is my KTM RC390. It is a 2016 model, and this is probably the bike I've made the most videos about. I've done all sorts of different installs, and I'm sure you guys have watched a bunch of those videos, so let me put it all together for you. This thing is probably my #2 favorite bike, and it probably has the most done to it. So let's start off with the big stuff. I've got K-Tech front fork cartridges and Öhlins rear shock. Then I've got all of the Taiga bodywork. That means the belly pan, the seat cowling, the front cowling. I've got the Taiga upper triple, the Taiga clip-ons, the Taiga rear sets. I've got an MIVV Ghibli exhaust. I've got a K&N air filter on it. It's been reflashed by KTM to run the RC Cup map. I've been running the Dunlop Alpha 13 tires on the track, and they do such a good job considering they're only about $200 a set. And even though I have the race bodywork on it, I fitted really easily detachable lights. So I've got a LED light bar on the front and just a regular tail light from eBay on the rear with some kind of license plate bracket, so I can easily remove the lights, go to the track, put them back on, and ride this thing on the street. You might have seen the video about how I got this thing down to its bare minimum weight in street form, and this bike is super impressive for what it's capable of, how 45 horsepower feels whenever you're on a small enough bike, and how fast it can go around the racetrack. That's why it's my #2 favorite bike, and I've really enjoyed this thing in the past year that I've had it. I've done a ton of work to it, I've crashed it, I've taken a ton of time off my lap times on this thing, and I really love this bike. Next up is my 2007 CRF 150RB. Now, this bike is the most multi-purpose bike I own. I've got the dirt setup for it. I've got a 12-inch setup for it. I trail ride it. I ride it on the street, and I track it in TMGP. This bike has the most insane power to weight ratio of any bike I've ever ridden. I mean, it makes 25 horsepower, it weighs about 160 pounds, and it flies on 12s. This thing's also the ultimate wheelie machine. You can do wheelies up to third gear. I've got pretty conservative gearing on it, and it's a blast. So as you can see, I've got light bars on the front, and I've got a tail light with a license plate on the rear. And another question you might have is, why is this thing torn apart? Well, after I blew up my 450, I got really nervous about blowing up another single. This thing has got tons and tons and tons of hours on it, a lot of race time, everything on it, so I decided I'd do a little bit of maintenance. Unfortunately, you know, people have been asking me to do this video, and people have been asking to do a walk around on this bike, so I just decided to do it, even with the top end off. It's not a big deal, you still get the point. As far as getting it street legal, I had to go through a process with my DMV, turn in my manufacturer certificate of origin, get a bonded title, have insurance, get it to pass inspection, the whole 9 yards. I've got a Trailtech stator kit on it that runs 35 watts of power, has a backup battery, so I'm able to run lights all the time, and I don't have to worry about charging the battery all the time because the stator does it for me. As far as the engine is concerned, I never actually really did anything to this because whenever I rode it in TMGP, it was so fast that people were getting a little butthurt. One of my friends actually rides the CR85, and I was kicking his ass all over the place, and he just assumed that I was cheating or that it was something to do with the bike, but you know, maybe it's just the torque of the 4-stroke versus, you know, the 85's top end. I don't know what it was, but I could definitely get off the corners a lot faster than him. So I ended up winning like 6 out of the 6 races that I participated in on this thing. And this bike is probably my number 3 at the moment, just because I'm really worried about the reliability of the 450. I would probably place the 450 as my number 3. But after blowing it up, after only owning it for a month, it's kind of hard to give it that kind of a ranking. Next up is my Honda Grom. As far as bikes I've modified, this is probably the second most modified bike in my garage. I've done literally everything to it. Motor mods, you've got it. Suspension mods, you've got it. Body mods, you've got it. Exhaust, intake, rear sets, brakes, everything. Lower bars, I've done so much stuff to this thing. The reason I did it is that I was pursuing being competitive in TMGP on it against, you know, faster, lighter bikes. It actually ended up doing pretty well. I placed 3rd overall 2 years in a row on this bike, but it cost me a lot of money. So the mods are as follows. I've got a 133cc kit on it, a DCR cam, DCR titanium valves, the Kawisaki clutch cover, a Barnett racing clutch, the Kawisaki 5-speed transmission, driven racing rear sets, Öhlins shock, Öhlins forks, Yoshimura exhaust, the month box intake, Dynojet PC5 with the wideband 2 controller, lower Renthal bars, just so much stuff. This bike actually made 13.5 wheel horsepower at 133 cc's. Show me another Grom that has made that much power with near stock displacement. I don't think you're going to be able to find one. On top of that, when I had this thing in race trim, I had it down to 195 pounds. It's really hard to take 25 pounds off of a mini bike, but I did it. I took off everything that was not absolutely necessary to race. And it did well for me. Unfortunately, after this season, I retired this bike because I got another bike, and that one is up next. This right here is the second smallest bike I own, but it is actually pretty quick as well. This is the bike that's going to be replacing the Grom next season in TMGP, and already the KX65 is a pretty dominant platform to run. But I still have a couple things to do with it because last season I ran it for the last 2 rounds and it just wasn't quite ready yet. For some reason my Grom was faster than it. I could turn faster lap times on it. So we'll see if I'm able to get it done by next season. So far, all it's got done to it is a 72cc overbore kit. Obviously I've got the 12-inch tires with the PMT slicks on it and all of the necessary things to pass tech and to get it on track. These bikes are extremely lightweight and they are very maintenance intensive. As long as you keep up with the maintenance on them, they're going to be reliable and they're going to be fast. It's extremely maneuverable. The short wheelbase makes it faster in the tighter turns, and the straight line power is excellent. It takes a little bit of skill to master a 2-stroke, but I run my buddy's 2-stroke on the endurance team and our lap times are pretty comparable on his bike. However, when it comes to this bike, I'm a little bit slower, but I'm going to definitely change that for next season. I'm not even exactly sure why I'm putting this bike in the video because I've owned it for like a year, and every time I try and work on it, something happens. Like the last time that I was about to spend a bunch of money on it, my 450 exploded, so I wasn't able to put that money into this. But anyways, this is a 1978 Honda Z50. It's been a project I've wanted to do for a long time, and you know, as you can see, it's just kind of you know, barely done. Got a new tank, new seat. I've got a Life in 125 bolted up into it. I have no idea of the running condition of it because I bought it used from a dude. I didn't actually buy it. I traded him some stuff. And hopefully one day I'll turn it into a really fun mini bike, but for now, it's just going to kind of sit until I can dedicate the time and the money to it. So I know what you're probably saying. Why or how do you have this many bikes? Well, you know, I work a whole lot, and pretty much everything I spend my money on is motorcycle related. I mean, I have uses for all of these. My wife rides the Grom now. I race the 150 and the 65 in TMGP. I'm going to be racing the 450 this year. I might do a couple rounds of CMRA on the RC390, and I dailied the Ducati. Do I have a use for the Z50? No, not at all. But I just kind of want one, so I have it. Either way, motorcycling is really a huge part of my life, and without the change from being into cars to riding, I really don't know where I would be today. I was a little ridiculous whenever I was into cars several years ago, but it never really reached these proportions. That's probably because motorcycles are so much cheaper than, you know, fast performance-oriented cars. However, I hope you enjoyed this video of Shift Loves Garage, and if you'd like to see more pictures and videos and various things that I'll be posting, I am starting to post on my Facebook, you know, trailers for videos that are going to be coming up on Wednesdays and stuff like that. So you can follow me at www.facebook.com/shiftlove138. And as always, if you like this video, make sure you click that like button. And if you're new here, make sure you click that subscribe button so you can see more videos like this from me in the future. And as always, do not forget to have a nice day. I've done literally everything to it. Really?